Hello, my friends. How are you? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing well myself. My name is Nuts or Auntie Omoju, and I'm back again with a nice short video featuring not one or two, but four easy American breakfast recipes. These are recipes we've come to love. Some I only found here, never heard of them before. And these are recipes you find easily when you walk into a restaurant because it's the culture. Some we used to make while in Kenya, and like the pancakes, I used to refer to them as the American flapjacks, which they are. I want to show you the basic recipe today, the old-fashioned buttermilk pancakes, which I know you will love to enjoy. I'm very specific today about the measurements I use because I know if you replicate it quite like that, you'll get to get the taste that I talk about all the time. I love pancakes personally, and I've done this so many times over, and I adopted it also as my basic waffle recipe. So allow me to welcome you back and just celebrate the new subscribers. You're welcome here. Let's make these pancakes, biscuits and gravy, the sausage and egg McMuffin, or the sausage and egg muffin. It's a McMuffin when you're having it at the McDonald's, yeah? But sausage and egg muffin and egg and bacon wrap. So thank you and karibu. Let's make this breakfast. Hey Bessie, here we go. So I'm going to start my pancake mix by first melting 6 tablespoons of butter. So once we melt this butter, we are going to use it through and through. We are not going to add any more when we are frying our pancakes, and I'll explain why. So let's cut off these 6 tablespoons. I like these butter sticks because they indicate like per tablespoon, so you know just where to cut. This one stick, it's usually 8 tablespoons of butter, so we are going to take off 6, and then we'll use the rest for something else. Here's our melted butter, and we are going to add all the wet ingredients into it. So the eggs, 2 of, and then I had some buttermilk I had remaining from my butter making. So you need to check out for that video. It's coming out soon. So we are going to beat this together. And then I'm going to use self-raising flour in this recipe. And I'm going to add just a 1/4 teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. You need to be so careful with bicarbonate of soda. It's amazing in raising the pancakes when you're making them. It's so helpful because it bubbles up when you're cooking it, but you don't want too much that you'll taste it in the pancake. So while I'm using self-raising, I don't need to use baking powder, but I need that 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Please make it a 1/4 for this amount of pancakes. We've added our 2 cups of flour, self-raising flour, and I'm going to mix it just so gently. After this, you just want to incorporate the flour into the very rich custard mix. Let me call it a custard because we have the butter, we have the milk, and we just want to incorporate the flour and stop at that. We want the mixture a bit lumpy. If you notice the mixture is a bit light at this point, that's what we want. We're going to cover this and set aside in the fridge for 15 minutes. Remember, you can make this at night before going to bed, and you'll have your mix ready to start frying in the morning. So you can't go wrong with this. You want it to thicken in the fridge, or you can keep it aside in a cool place. So we are ready. Our mixture is thicker, it's bubbly, and we have our pans hot. Like I showed, it's on medium, it's on very low, and you want your pans heating up for some time. I'm using non-stick pans. I found them to be best. And you want to use a dry pan for this mix. Don't butter your pan. Don't add any oil because you'll get a different texture. So I'm adding just a half cup for this size of the pancakes, and I'll continue doing that. And then once it bubbles up, as you can see, the bubbles are rising to the top. It's getting airy, and by the time it cooks, even when you hold the pancake, it feels so much lighter because the bicarbonate makes it so. So bestie, you want to keep repeating that process and setting it aside in a pretty manner. Our pile is coming up high, and that's just basically what you do. You cannot add butter while it's bubbling because it creates a hole. I'm sure if you've tried, you've seen that much, yeah? So you don't want a hole under your pancake. So you keep repeating the process just like this. Cook on a dry pan, and this is the result. I'm serving mine with whipping cream or whipped cream and just drizzling some syrup, and we're good to go. This is the sweet side. You can serve with some savories, egg and bacon. Perfect. So now we move on to our next recipe, which is a biscuit and gravy. I'm making my own buttermilk by adding 1 tablespoon of vinegar into 1 cup of milk, and that will thicken it after about 15 minutes. Then I'm greasing my pan to have it ready. I'll just grease this and keep it on the side before I start making my biscuits. Honey, I'm using self-raising flour. It's because I don't want to have to use baking powder, and I'm using my pastry cutter to just cut down that butter into the flour. So this is very helpful. I'm just crushing all that butter one stick off into the flour, and as soon as it gets into smaller bits, I will cut right into the flour and incorporate. I want my butter to really mix well with the flour before I add anything. Once I've cut all these pieces, I'm going to go in with my fingers and just rub the butter into the flour and incorporate really well so that it becomes like a rich flour.
Do you want to know? Well, I've been thinking about you, and I think I'll have to listen, because
with testing these recipes, I realized I want mine to have a little more sugar than I want the salt. So I added half a teaspoon of salt and 2 tablespoons of sugar, and I'm bringing it together with 1 cup of buttermilk. And then this is the tricky part. You don't want to knead this flour at all. You want to fold it as if you're making a puff pastry. So we're going to just fold. You fold over, turn it around, fold it again. And by doing this, you're creating layers upon layers, because this is what we want to swell our dough once we start baking. So if you have time, you want to fold this over and over for some time, make it 15 minutes or even 20. Then this is not required, but I kept my dough aside to rest. I do believe once you work the gluten, you're supposed to let it rest a bit. This is also not required. You don't need a rolling pin. You can spread out with your fingers to about half an inch of height. Yeah. And then you can cut out into round shapes. I just wanted to cut this into 9 pieces and bake. This is the first time I'm checking, and this is the much it will rise according to the number of folds I made. So nice rise. I'm going to leave it until it browns. Here we go. It's all done. It was about 12 minutes, and I'm going to just brush some butter on top so they look nice and shiny, and then I'll serve my breakfast. I'm going to make the gravy. And this is how we do it. I'm using the Jimmy Dean, the constructed sausage, as I refer to it. This is very well seasoned, I find. So the only thing I'm going to add as a seasoning, just Italian seasoning, just because it's a medley of herbs and I find that it goes very well. Then I will add a little bit more oregano. And then I had this bechamel, which I had remained from a different recipe. But we're going to make it from scratch someday. I had made mac and cheese and I had that remaining. Otherwise, we'd add flour and a little more butter into this to make the bechamel. But that is what I added. Lightened it with milk, and I have my gravy. Serve it on top of that biscuit, and you have the most delicious savory dish for breakfast. Goes so well with tea or coffee. This is a must try. And then you can make it into a sweet dish. Just the biscuit, you can open it up while it's still warm and add some homemade butter, or just butter, some softened butter. It works so well. This was homemade, luckily, so the flavors were amazing. Just added that, and then added some marmalade on top. You can use a jelly or a jam or a preserve, all will work. Yeah, so just like that, and then you cover and enjoy with some coffee. Yummy. And so the next recipe is this sausage and egg muffins made the homemade way. I'm using these sausages because they were they're easier, they're fully cooked, and I'll just brown and serve just as it suggests on the box. So just moistening them in the pan while they're covered, making them brown, and then I toast my English muffins. This you can find in any shop. Yeah, I got them at about $1.48, and you can open up them up like this. Yeah. So these are made on a hot griddle. So they brown the underside and the top, but as they brown it, it rises like this. So there seems to be a seam at the center. So you can pry it open with your fingers, or just cut with a knife, as we will do the next one. There's no harm, but you want it raggedy and nice. Yeah. And then while serving, you can apply the butter on the top and cheese on the bottom. But I tell you, I had forgotten how to compile this sandwich, but it's a delicious breakfast sandwich you ought to try. And you find it in many restaurants if you're going out for breakfast and you want to toast this. And this is good enough. Yeah, you want the edges crispy, the raggedy edges just a bit crispy and nice. You want the muffin hot. And while I keep it aside to rest a bit, I'll be frying my eggs in the same pan that I did the sausages. Perhaps I should have used another, because the bacon, the sausage bits were making my egg a bit brown, had some brown specks. Yeah, that one savory. Also, when you're using this ring, you want the pan to be really hot, otherwise the egg will run out under. So that's what happened. But when it's really hot, it just shocks the egg and keeps it in place. So I'm trying to pry my eggs from the sides and just move the ring a bit. Was a bit of drama. I did salt my egg just a little bit, and I'm making the next one. As you can see, this didn't run out because the pan was quite hot. Add a bit of salt. You can break the yolk a bit, and you see the egg stays round, and that's where I messed up. Yeah, lots of trials and error, but this is how you want it, as round as possible. Season it a bit, and then you can bring it together, make a yummy sandwich. So really, the butter should go on the top bun. And you can use melted butter. I was just using my homemade butter here. And then you have the cheese on the bottom bun. Just like that. We're going to add 2 sausages because these are tiny mini patties. And then the fried egg on top of each. You get one in a restaurant because they have the bigger circular patties. So just like that, the egg with the sausage bits, it's all right. And then you cover with the top bun, which has some butter, and serve. Yummy. All right, so let's do this bacon and egg wrap. This is yummy. And we start by warming our wrap before we compile it. But in the meantime, I'm heating up my pan as I scramble my eggs. I salted this for a bit, but if you're serving professionally, you shouldn't really season the eggs. But let's heat up our olive oil. I'm using about 2 tablespoons like this of olive oil, just eyeballing that, and 2 tablespoons of butter. and you want the butter to melt, it doesn't have to melt all the way. Just add your eggs, and as they form on the side, as they set on the side, you want to draw them in because we are making scrambled eggs. This is the easiest way of scrambling eggs, and because sometimes when they set in a big they set in a big batch, yeah, so you want to break them down as you do. Hard to describe sometimes. So I'm attempting to break down the bigger bits as I draw in the wet bits, and you don't want to overcook this. You don't want them to gain color. So in goes our wrap in a clean pan. And as it comes to warm, you want to use this kind of cheese slice. And I'm just going to unwrap and cut this in half and put it at the center. If it's easier, you can put it 3/4 way. That way it will be easier to fold. I'm coming in with 2 strips of bacon. You can use one and just break it in half, but since it's homemade, you can add more of what you like. And then about a scoop of the scrambled eggs, or just enough for as much as you like, really. And then we're going to draw in the sides and fold our egg, fold our wrap just like that. It's warm and nice and so delicious and creamy. We're going to cut it just like that so that we can serve it like this. It's delicious. And for Uncle, we made these keto waffles. He had one by one coming as we cooked. He had them with berries and cream, so yummy. He loved it. And the pancakes were like this. We served them either sweet or savory, depending on what we wanted. And that's the pile, so nice and tall. And these were good. Thank you so much. Watch out for the next.